Hi, I'm Crystal, and I'm here today with a project that features 5 hidden journaling spots. This is part of Texas Two-Step Tuesday, hosted by Susan at I Totally Love It. The prompt this week is Dusty Road Diary, and it calls for at least 2 journaling spots, one hidden and one visible. So I am going to do this project, but I want to tell you that all of the measurements and instructions are on my blog at papercraftcrystal.com and in the description box below, so you don't need to try to write it down. And since I've been doing some Texas facts during this series, today I'm going to talk a little bit about Bay Cliff, which is on Trinity Bay, and it's an interesting little town. So we'll start the project off, though, with a folded sheet of kraft cardstock. It's 8.5 by 11, folded down to 4.25 by 8.5, and then I trimmed it down just a little bit so it will mount nicely in my journal. I'm taking a second sheet of kraft cardstock and trimming it to 4.25 by 11. And then the third sheet of kraft cardstock, and I'm just using grocery bag for this, I'm going to cut down to 4 by 8.5 to make a pocket. So Bay Cliff is on a cliff, which is 16 feet above sea level, which if you're on a bay, that's pretty tall, I guess, but not much of a cliff, 16 feet. But the really interesting thing about this little unincorporated town is that in the 1950s, the Galveston Daily News gave away residential lots with paid newspaper subscriptions. I can't even imagine. All I get with my newspaper subscription is ever-increasing prices and a newspaper. So the 4.25 by 11 strips I've glued together, and I'm just Z-folding so they will fit onto this project. So it's going to make a nice little flip out. I happen to have my iron, so I'm going to iron it perfectly flat. And then I'm going to cheat and make my folding look pristine by trimming the edges with the paper trimmer. Now, Bay Cliff, of course, all these lots were being given away by the newspaper, and when people canceled their subscriptions, the newspaper would take the lots back and give them to someone else. So this really created a lot of problems for Bay Cliff over the years with title, as you can imagine, because it was never really clear who owned which lot and if their title was clear. So it really impeded development of this town, which remains unincorporated. But just an interesting little artifact of Texas history that this whole community started out as a gift with purchase with newspaper subscriptions. So I've taken that 4-inch by 8.5-inch piece and I've made a pocket inside my folded sheet of grocery bag, glued it down so that it's top opening. Now I'm going to make the entire folded sheet of paper into a side loading pocket, and I'm just measuring so I can make my tag the correct size. I'm using a little bit of 2-sided tape as well as some glue. That's a little bit belt and suspenders, probably not really necessary, but I'll get a nice seal there. So now I've got my base, I've got my Z-fold. I'm going to attach the Z-fold on 3 sides so that it is also a top-loading pocket. So here I'm going to put another little strip of 2-sided tape, and then I'm going to put some glue. So we'll have a nice firm seal between the Z-fold, which is going to get a lot of tension put on it by being folded out. So now we have a top-loading pocket, a side-loading pocket, another tiny top-loading pocket. So here you can see me pulling out the temporary pieces meant to represent the tags. So there we've got 3 tags, and then if I mount the entire thing as a top-loading pocket, I've got room for a very large 4th tag. Plus I've got my 5th hidden journaling spot with the Z-fold. So now that you've seen how this item is assembled, let's look at it once I've gotten all the pieces decorated. So here we are, once everything's been decorated and I've made the permanent tags. So here's my Z-fold with a little tab. You can see it folds out and you've got 2 sides to the Z-fold. So I've got some visible space and some hidden space. I've got a tag in this top-loading pocket, a tag in the side-loading pocket, another tag in that small top-loading pocket that's inside the folded page, and then a big tag that goes behind the entire project. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this in my daily use journal. I recently had to pivot from a twine binding to an accordion binding and expand to more books, but Here it is loaded into my daily journal, and you can see the lovely tags. There's that Z-fold space, so I've got plenty of journaling room. Plenty of room to add some 3D items and some daily items. Here's the big side loading tag. Put a little pull tab or trim on each of these so they're easy to pull out and to see. And there's the big tag from the top loading pocket made when I mounted the entire thing to the page. So I certainly have enjoyed the Texas Two-Step series. I've enjoyed seeing everyone's creations. I really appreciate Susan hosting this prompted series. It is an open collaboration, so you can jump in anytime. Take a look at her channel at I Totally Love It if you would like to see more of the upcoming prompts. We're going through the end of June in this series, and I'm looking forward to coming back and seeing you with the next prompt. The one that is coming up next is, I believe, I'm going to get this wrong. The next one is Western Union, which is 2 types of written ephemera. So that will be fun, and I will see you then. Thank you for joining me today.